Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
The email arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing quarterly reports for my portfolio companies. Subject: Marcus Chen's VP Promotion Celebration Family Update. I opened it already knowing what it would say. Dear Sarah, we're thrilled to announce Marcus has been promoted to Vice President of Strategic Acquisitions at Hartman & Associates. There will be a celebration dinner this Saturday at the Metropolitan Club. Professional attire required. The guest list includes Marcus's managing director, several board members and key clients. Given the formal nature of the event and the professional caliber of attendees, perhaps it's best you celebrate separately with Marcus another time. We'll send you photos. Mom and Dad. I set my phone down and returned to the acquisition proposal in front of me. A $340 million merger that needed my approval by end of week. 20 minutes later, my sister Emily's text arrived. Emily, just so you know, his managing director will be there. And clients who've closed $200 million deals. It's really not your scene. Emily, no offense, but you'd feel out of place. These are serious business people. I typed back 3 words. Me, understood. My assistant knocked on my office door. Miss Chen, your 10 a.m. is here. The CEO of Hartman & Associates. I smiled. Send him in. My brother Marcus is the family success story. Harvard MBA. 6-figure salary at 28. Corner office at Hartman & Associates, one of the most prestigious investment firms in the city. I'm the family embarrassment. Started 12 years ago when I dropped out of college my junior year. Dad stopped speaking to me for 6 months. Mom cried every Sunday dinner about her daughter who gave up. Sarah had so much potential, she'd say to relatives. Now she's just adrift. I wasn't adrift. I was building. While my classmates finished their degrees, I was coding 18 hours a day in my apartment. I'd identified a gap in financial services technology, a platform that could automate portfolio rebalancing for institutional investors. The existing solutions were clunky, expensive, inefficient. I built something better. By the time my former classmates graduated, my software had been acquired by a private equity firm for $47 million. I was 21 years old. I didn't tell my family. They were still lecturing me about getting my life together and going back to school. I let them believe I was doing freelance web design from my apartment. It was easier that way. The acquisition money became seed capital. I spent the next 5 years quietly building a portfolio. Early-stage investments in fintech companies, a few real estate holdings, strategic positions in established firms that were undervalued. One of those investments was Hartman & Associates. They needed capital for expansion. Their founder, Richard Hartman, was brilliant but cash-strapped. I offered $180 million through a holding company, structured as a silent partnership. In exchange, I received 81% of voting shares and a board seat I never publicly claimed. Richard knew who I was. His executive team knew. The board knew. My family had no idea their unemployed daughter controlled the firm where Marcus worked. Marcus joined Hartman 3 years ago. He'd call Mom after every achievement. I closed a $30 million deal today. The managing director complimented my presentation. I'm being considered for VP. Dad would beam with pride. Finally, someone in this family understands what success means. Mom would sigh. If only Sarah had your drive, Marcus. I'd sit quietly at family dinners, listening to them celebrate my brother's career at my own company and say nothing. Why? Because I'd learned something valuable. People reveal who they are when they think you have nothing. Every dismissive comment. Every comparison. Every time they chose not to invite me because I'd lower the standard. I wasn't hurt. I was taking notes. The morning after I received Marcus's party invitation, I had breakfast with Richard Hartman at his club. Your brother's promotion, Richard said, stirring his coffee. Are you attending? I wasn't invited, I said. Apparently I'd lower the professional standard. Richard winced. Sarah, I'm sorry. If I'd known. It's fine, I interrupted. How's the expansion into European markets? We spent 90 minutes discussing strategy. Hartman & Associates was thriving. My investment had allowed them to triple their client base, open offices in London and Frankfurt and recruit top talent. Marcus's promotion to VP was part of that growth. He was actually good at his job. I'd reviewed his deal files. He had strong client relationships and solid instincts for acquisitions. He just had no idea who'd funded the expansion that created his position. The promotion celebration, Richard said as we finished. I'm expected to give a toast. It feels dishonest not to acknowledge your role in the firm's success. Don't, I said. Not yet. When? I'll know when the time is right. I did know. I'd known since I read that email. Over the next 3 days I made preparations. I called my attorney. I need you at the Metropolitan Club this Saturday. Bring the partnership documents. I called my financial advisor. Pull together a summary of the Hartman investment. Original capital, current valuation, voting share structure. I called my executive assistant. Clear my Saturday evening. I'm attending my brother's promotion party. I thought you weren't invited, she said carefully. I wasn't. I'm going anyway. Saturday arrived. I spent the afternoon at my penthouse preparing. My phone buzzed constantly. Family group chat. Mom, Marcus, we're so proud. Tonight will be perfect. Dad, my son the vice president. Finally, real success in this family. Emily, can't wait to meet your managing director. This is so exciting. Marcus, thanks everyone. This is a big night for me. I wasn't included in the chat. I was screenshotting it for my records. At 5 p.m. Emily called. Sarah? Just checking, you're not planning to show up tonight, right? Why would I? I asked. Good. Because Mom's nervous you might try to crash. You know how you can be awkward around successful people. I understand, I said. It's just Marcus worked really hard for this. Tonight needs to be perfect. I hope it is, I said honestly. Because it would be. Just not the way they expected. I dressed carefully. Armani suit perfectly tailored. Cartier watch. My usual understated elegance. I'd learned years ago that Real wealth whispers. My driver picked me up at 6:30. The Metropolitan Club was across town, a gilded bastion of old money and corporate power. Miss Chin, my driver said. Are you sure about this? Completely. Should I wait? No. This might take a while. The Metropolitan Club's dining room glittered with crystal and candlelight. About 60 people filled the private event space. Hartman executives, board members, clients, and my family. I walked in at 7:15, exactly 15 minutes after the scheduled start. The room didn't notice immediately. Then Emily saw me. Her face went white. She grabbed Mom's arm, whispering urgently. Mom turned. Her expression cycled through shock, anger, and horror in 3 seconds. She crossed the room like a missile. Sarah, what are you doing here? Attending my brother's celebration, I said calmly. You weren't invited. I explicitly said. I know what you said. Dad appeared. Sarah, this is inappropriate. Marcus's boss is here. Important clients. You need to leave. I'm staying, I said. Marcus pushed through the crowd, his face flushed. Are you serious right now? Tonight is about me. About my achievement. You can't let me have one thing without making it about you. I'm not making it about me, I said quietly. I'm just here. In what, a rental suit? Emily hissed. Trying to look like you belong? Emily. No, Marcus cut in. She's right. Sarah, I worked 7 years for this promotion. 7 years of 80-hour weeks, brutal clients, impossible deadlines. You don't get to walk in here and embarrass me in front of my managing director. I saw Richard Hartman across the room. Our eyes met. He gave the slightest nod. It was time. I'm not here to embarrass you, I said to Marcus. I'm here because I was invited. By who? Mom demanded. Because we certainly didn't. By the CEO, I said. Richard Hartman. Marcus laughed. Right. The CEO personally invited my unemployed sister to my promotion party. That makes sense. It does when you understand the context, I said. What context? Dad snapped. That you feel entitled to crash events where you don't belong? Richard Hartman's voice cut through the murmuring crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention. Before we toast Marcus's well-deserved promotion, there's someone I need to acknowledge. The room quieted. Marcus straightened his tie, smiling. This was his moment. Richard continued. Hartman and Associates' success over the past 5 years has been extraordinary. We've tripled our assets under management, expanded internationally, and recruited exceptional talent like Marcus Chen. Polite applause. Marcus beamed. But none of that would have been possible without our silent partner. The investor who believed in this firm when we were struggling. Who provided the capital that funded our expansion. Who holds 81% of voting shares and sits on our board. The room went completely silent. Marcus's smile froze. I'd like to introduce someone most of you haven't met publicly, though her impact on this firm is profound. Sarah Chen, our majority shareholder and the reason we're all here tonight. The silence was absolute. 60 faces turned to stare at me. Marcus's managing director. Board members. Clients who'd closed 9-figure deals. And my family whose expressions I'll remember forever. Mom's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. Dad's face had gone gray. Emily actually stumbled backward, catching herself on a chair. Marcus just stood there, frozen as his brain tried to process the impossible equation. His unemployed, directionless sister equals the majority owner of his firm. Richard Hartman gestured toward me. Sarah, would you like to say a few words? Every eye in the room followed me as I walked to the front. I stood next to Richard looking out at the crowd. At the executives who'd worked for my company for years without knowing I owned it. At the clients who'd trusted Hartman with their money, never realizing who'd funded the firm's transformation. At my family who'd spent 12 years telling me I'd never amount to anything. Thank you, Richard, I said. I've preferred to remain behind the scenes, but given tonight's celebration, it seems appropriate to clarify a few things. I pulled out my phone and projected a document onto the room's screen. Partnership agreement, dated 5 years prior, showing my $180 million investment and 81% ownership stake. In 2019, I invested in Hartman and Associates through a private holding company. That investment funded the expansion that created new positions, including the VP role Marcus is celebrating tonight. Marcus made a small choking sound. I advanced the slide. This is the current valuation. My stake is worth approximately $840 million. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I'm not sharing this to diminish Marcus's achievement. He earned his promotion through talent and hard work. I'm sharing it because my family has spent years telling me I'm a failure while celebrating successes that wouldn't exist without me. I looked at my mother. You said I'd lower the standard, tonight. Mom, I set the standard. This entire firm operates under standards I approved. Mom's champagne glass trembled in her hand. I turned to my father. Dad, you said I embarrassed the family. I've spent 12 years quietly building what you publicly celebrate when it's attached to Marcus's name. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. Emily, you said these are serious business people, and I wouldn't fit in. I've had breakfast meetings with half the people in this room. They know exactly who I am. Emily's face was scarlet. Finally, I looked at Marcus. My brother who'd worked so hard, who was genuinely talented, who had no idea the playing field had been tilted in his favor all along. Marcus, you deserve this promotion. You're good at your job. But you got this job because I funded the expansion that created it. You impressed the managing director because I invested in the training program that developed you. Every client relationship you built was possible because I provided the capital that kept this firm alive. His voice came out strangled. You've been lying to us for 12 years? No, I said. You've been making assumptions for 12 years. I never lied. You never asked. You let us think. I let you reveal who you really are, I said. Every family dinner where you talked about real success while I sat there quietly? Every time Mom cried about her disappointing daughter? Every event I wasn't invited to because I'd embarrass you? I was watching, Bernie. Understanding exactly what you thought of me when you believed I had nothing. The room was so quiet I could hear the ice shifting in water glasses. Richard cleared his throat. I think we should move to dinner. Miss Chen, you'll sit at the head table. Actually, I said, I won't be staying for dinner. I turned back to my family one last time. Marcus, congratulations on your promotion. You earned it. I hope you enjoy celebrating with people who respect you. I started walking toward the exit. Sarah, wait, Mom's voice cracked. I stopped but didn't turn around. We didn't know, she said desperately. If we'd known. You'd have treated me differently, I finished. I know. That's exactly the problem. I walked out of the Metropolitan Club into the cool evening air. My phone started ringing before I reached the street. Marcus. Then Emily. Then Mom. Then Dad. I declined every call. The next 48 hours were illuminating. Sunday morning, Mom appeared at my penthouse. The doorman called up. Miss Chen, your mother is here. Should I send her up? I said. She walked into my apartment, $20 million penthouse with city views, original artwork, furniture that cost more than her car, and just stood there taking it in. How long? She asked finally. How long what? How long have you been this? She gestured at the apartment, the life, the wealth that contradicted everything she thought she knew about me. 12 years, I said. Since I was 21. The software sale. That was the beginning. I've built on it since. She sank onto my sofa. Italian leather, custom-made. Why didn't you tell us? Because you made it clear what you thought of me without money. I wanted to know if that would ever change. That's cruel, Sarah. Is it? I asked. Was it cruel when you didn't invite me to Marcus's graduation party because I'd bring down the mood? Or when Dad told his golf friends he only had one child who made him proud? Or when you cried at Thanksgiving about how I'd wasted my potential? Mom's eyes filled. We thought you were struggling. We wanted you to do better. No, I said. You wanted me to do better so you'd look better. There's a difference. We're your family. You're people who share my DNA, I corrected. Family treats each other with basic respect even when they don't have impressive job titles. What do you want from us? She asked. Nothing, I said honestly. I don't need your approval anymore. I haven't needed it for a long time. Sarah. Mom, I'm not angry. I'm just done. Done pretending your criticism hurts. Done watching you celebrate achievements I funded. Done being who you wanted me to be when you couldn't even see who I actually was. She left 20 minutes later, tears streaming down her face. Dad didn't come. He sent an email. Sarah, we need to discuss this situation. What you did Saturday night was humiliating for Marcus and the entire family. We understand you've achieved some financial success, but that doesn't excuse your behavior. We expect an apology. I deleted it. Emily tried a different approach. She showed up with Marcus. We want to understand, Emily said. Help us understand why you did this. Did what? I asked. Built a successful business? Invested wisely? Or attended a party at a company I own 81% of? You know what I mean, Marcus said. You humiliated me in front of my boss, my colleagues, everyone. I stated facts, I said. If those facts humiliated you, maybe examine why. You could have told me privately, he argued. You didn't have to do it in front of everyone. Like you privately told me I'd lower the standard? Or privately suggested I celebrate separately. Marcus flushed. That's different. How? Because I didn't know. If I'd known who you were, you'd have treated me better, I said. I know. That's the problem, Marcus. You treat people based on what they can do for you. I needed to know if you'd ever treat me well just because I'm your sister. That's not fair. Neither is 12 years of being told I'm an embarrassment. They left after an hour of circular arguments. Nothing was resolved because there was nothing to resolve. They wanted me to apologize for making them face consequences of their own behavior. I wouldn't. 3 weeks later, I had lunch with Richard Hartman. The office is still buzzing, he said. Everyone's talking about Marcus's sister being the silent partner. How's Marcus handling it? Professionally. He hasn't missed a day of work. But he's quieter. Less confident. He'll adjust, I said. He's talented enough to succeed on his own merit. Are you planning to take a more active role? Richard asked. The board would welcome it. No, I said. I trust your leadership. But I do want to make one change. I slid a document across the table. I'm establishing a scholarship fund for college dropouts pursuing entrepreneurship. I'll be funding it with 10% of my Hartman dividends annually. I want Marcus to administer it. Richard read the proposal. This is generous. Why Marcus? Because he needs to learn that success comes in many forms, I said. And that the traditional path isn't the only valid one. You're giving him a chance to grow. I'm giving him a chance to see people the way I wish he'd seen me. The scholarship launched 2 months later. Marcus threw himself into it with surprising dedication. He interviewed candidates, reviewed business plans, mentored recipients. I watched from a distance as my brother slowly began to understand that potential exists in unexpected places. We still don't have Sunday dinners. Mom still calls occasionally, voice tight with emotions she can't name. Dad sends formal emails about mending the family. Emily got engaged and didn't invite me to the celebration. But she did send me the venue contract to review. Turned out I own the building through one of my holding companies. I approved it with a 40% discount and a congratulations note. Small steps. The Metropolitan Club incident became industry legend. Did you hear about the VP whose sister owns his company? The story spread through financial circles, growing more elaborate with each retelling. I let it spread. The truth was interesting enough. Last month, Forbes did a profile on silent investors. They wanted to interview me about the Hartman investment and my broader portfolio strategy. I agreed on one condition. They include Marcus's quote about building success through mentorship and recognizing potential in unconventional places. They published it. Marcus called me afterward. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I know." "Why did you?" "Because you're my brother," I said. "And despite everything, I want you to succeed." Silence on the line. Then, "I'm sorry, Sarah. For all of it. For every dismissive comment, every exclusion, every time I made you feel less than. You deserved better." "Yes," I said. "I did. Can we try again? As actual family?" "Maybe," I said. "But it has to be real, Marcus. No performing for each other. No measuring worth by bank accounts or job titles. Just two people who happen to share DNA trying to treat each other with basic human decency." "I can do that," he said. "I want to do that. The trust rebuilds slowly if it rebuilds at all. But I'm willing to try. Not because I need family, but because I've learned that giving people room to grow sometimes yields surprising results. And if it doesn't work, I'll be fine. I've built an empire. Proven my worth. Created success on my own terms. I don't need validation anymore. But I'm willing to share my table with people who finally learned to see me. That's the difference between 12 years ago and now. 12 years ago I was desperate for them to recognize my value. Now I'm secure enough to let them try. And if they can't, I'll celebrate my next achievement with the people who believed in me when I had nothing but an idea and a laptop. Those are the people who earned their seat at my table. Everyone else is still on probation.